man, the music just stops. Why does it stop there? Why does it stop there? Welcome to Association Chat, an online discussion where we warm ourselves by the virtual fire with topics of the day, welcoming thought leaders and trailblazers alike to join up in this online home for the community. I'm the host of Association Chat, Kiki L'Italian, and today we're talking about the hidden costs that avoidance and inaction could be having in your life right now. Joining us is the Spitfire coach herself, Lauren LeMunyan, whose global network of accredited ICF coaches and expert trainers and facilitators are focused on activating and advancing future leaders. I need to say that like 3 more times. Welcome, Lauren. Come on up. I'm so excited to see you.
I am so excited to see you too. I love
Yes.
the add-on of the fire, the virtual fire.
The virtual fire, the virtual fire. You like it? And I was like, for people who are watching it, you can see it, but people who aren't watching it, they're listening to it later, they don't know. There's a little bit of nonverbal action going here. I'm actually warming my hands by the virtual fire.
Yes.
Yes, yes. So, okay, you are probably one of the most action-oriented people I've ever known in my life. So I think it's appropriate that we're talking about this today, I'm talking about this with you. So first I wanted to talk about how you define avoidance, because, avoidance could be a lot of things, right? We could define it different ways, but in the context of personal growth and professional development, how would you define avoidance?
Yeah, well, I don't think you can talk about avoidance without talking about inaction as well.
Yeah.
So they kind of go hand in hand, but they're kind of like in this very different like avenue for people. So when we talk about inaction, it is the lack of action where it's expected or it's appropriate to do so. So there is a void that's happening in what is expected in another person or expected for yourself. So that's inaction.
Okay.
When we talk about avoidance, it's an intentional decision to move away from the action. So there's a lot more energy and power in avoiding what we need to do.
Ooh, I don't want to give too much power into avoiding what I need to do. And yet that's really resonating. I think the ooh came from a place really deep down inside that feels familiar to me.
I want you to feel the ooh. And that's why we're talking about
it.
the hidden cost, because like literally when we feel that feeling,
Yeah.
or we feel it in our bank account, or we feel it in other places, that's when we take action. When problems are expensive, we can't ignore them.
Ooh. Okay, see, it's hitting again. I'm feeling it inside, deep down inside. So what are the reasons that this happens? Why is it that an individual or a team would fall into inaction?
Well, it's what we all do. It's the stories that we got playing in the background. And we did an executive forum on this very topic a couple weeks ago. And I was so curious to kind of flip the lens on people. So when someone doesn't act or someone else avoids, what's the story we make up for them? So I'm gonna ask the audience, and I'm gonna ask you. So like, if I avoided responding to your request to come onto Association Chat, what would be the story you would make up about me?
You don't think I'm important.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't see my email. You don't like me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I hate saying this out like a statement because I don't ever want that to be true, because Lauren, I care about it. But it's these stories. It's like something where it's painting a negative picture about how you feel about me.
Correct. We personalize it. We've got a whole story made up, and it's usually not a good thing. Right. Now I'm going to flip the script. So Kiki, if you have ever avoided responding to a request, what's going on with you?
Usually it's too difficult to respond at the time. Almost always it's because I have a million different things I'm trying to prioritize, and I might have 3 people who are yelling at me to get them something right now. And I think, oh, this podcast person is not going to charge me for not responding to them, or like, this is something I can get to later. It's not something that's on fire in front of me right now.
Right. So we see 2 very different stories playing out. So what we're experiencing is usually, I don't have enough information. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money related to it. So it's not creating urgency and priority.
Right.
But none of that has anything to do with you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I don't like Kiki. I don't have time for this. Like, whatever. Like, the energy we place on it is from our own storytelling lens.
Yeah. I'm just kind of processing this because the book that the book club is reading is by Charles Duhigg. His latest book, Super Communicators, really, really good. Everybody, it's such a good book. But I reached out to him to come onto the podcast, and he says on his website he takes these requests seriously and he
Mhm.
will respond. So it was a few days, and then I got the response that he's honored that I asked, but that he really can't come on to the show right now. He turned me down. But then he said, check back with me this summer
Mhm.
when I should have more time. And I thought, what a great way to respond to that.
Yes.
So that the story that would be in my head normally is, oh, Mr. High and Mighty thinks
Mhm.
he's too good for the
So
association chat.
busy.
So busy with your best-selling book and your fabulous life. But then it was like he said, check back with me,
Mhm.
when things should be easier for me to say yes.
Yes. I'm so glad you brought up this example, Kiki, because literally these are the missing links. We need to give people clarity in our response. So, not right now,
Mhm.
maybe later. Don't think this is the right fit for me. And then what's the follow up? Is it, let me refer you to someone else? Can I get back to you in a week? Let me wrap up this project and I'll circle back with you. Or when would be a better time to check in with
Right.
you? We're not closing the loop. So people are filling in the blanks. And that's what our brains do. They fill in the blanks of the patterns that we have in the past. So we may have encountered someone who blew us off, who made us feel like dirt, who made us feel little and less than. And
Hmm.
so if we have anything that is reminiscent of that, we're using those past patterns to fill in those blanks.
Yeah. Oh, I see it. I feel it.
Mm-hmm.
So okay. So a lot of times with inaction, where we are imagining that somebody else is, we're filling in the blanks. We are creating our own narrative, our own stories. Um, what are the signs that people need to look out for when this is happening within a team? What are the signs? Like if
Yeah.
you are a manager or a director and you're looking around, what do you need to look out for?
I mean, you're going to see it pretty clearly with missed deadlines, with people not speaking up. So when you're not getting those closed loops in communication of who's responsible for what when, there are probably right underneath it some vibes of inaction or even avoidance. And I think when you have an established pattern on teams, you're going to see people who might talk about it on the surface. Yeah, yeah, I got it. I'm going to do it. But then they're not following through. You're not seeing
Mhm.
that action and that completion happening. So we're not getting the communication and then we're not getting the aligned action that shows that we have the combination happening. So it's looking for the signs and patterns. And so this is what we teach a lot when we do facilitation, when we're doing coaching, is this think framework, which essentially allows you to objectify the situation and not make it about the person. So we're looking for things that we notice. Hey, I've noticed that, when we meet, it seems like we're in agreement, we know what's happening, we have clear deadlines. But then a week or so goes by and I'm not getting that follow up and we're not getting that follow through. So I'm just
Right.
curious what's going on. So we're
Right.
staying about the issue and we're also giving people a way forward. So we're being clear about our intent. We're looking for what's true. We're looking for what's helpful. We're looking for what we notice. And we're staying in that kindness container.
Yeah.
Because people, I think, avoid it because they've had a negative interaction in the past. So it's easier if I just sit back, it'll resolve itself, hopefully. But in reality, never in the history of time have things resolved themselves when it's about us.
So what can a person who finds themselves in that situation, if you're the person who constantly finds yourself in that situation, what can you do? Like
So are
not
you the person avoiding or are you noticing people
the person
avoiding?
avoiding.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're going to have to put your courage badge on.
Hmm.
This is how you break patterns because these are long established patterns that we've learned from family, from school. Like I avoided a science project in 4th grade. I made up a whole rat experiment and
You
then I
made
said I
up.
was
Wait.
sick.
Well,
I made it up.
hold it. You made Lauren. I know you, and you're very creative, but making up a whole rat experiment.
In my mind, I had it like it was just way too big for a fourth grader. Like I had no way of getting these rats to school. Like I walked to
Right.
school a mile, like in the yeah, it was a cluster to begin with.
I
So
just have to say that for those who are listening to this, you're missing the full effect because Lauren also has the mob boss wife like furry vest on thing going on, so it actually like lends itself to this visualization of like creating a rat experiment. So
yeah, I was gonna like train them with different foods. I never did it because I was in over my head, but I was so afraid of admitting that I was in over my head that I just lied and said I was sick on science fair day.
oh,
It was like that has stayed
oh,
with me for years. Like I felt so ashamed
yeah.
about it. And like I basically put together a poster board, like trying to show results. I think I got like a C plus or a B minus, and I was just like,
Oh my
but
gosh.
it's one of those moments where it's like, I never want to feel that way again. Like I
Mhm.
want to own my stuff. I want to own if I've been in the wrong. And I think if you have been in a pattern where you've been able to get away with it and you kind of can rationalize the shame that comes with it, it's a
Mhm.
question of like what does integrity look like for you? So I would rather be honest and say, I don't have the capacity to do this, or I'm lost, or I'm underwater. I feel like I'm screwing this up. It's being able to ask for help. And honestly, we are in a an epidemic, pandemic of social atrophy where
Yeah,
people don't know how to ask or accept help.
that's true.
And I think the silence is what makes us sicker.
Yeah. Are there baby steps?
Yeah, it's just like asking yourself, what do I need today? How can I be more in integrity today?
How can I be more in integrity today? That's a great question.
Mhm.
I feel like for all kinds of things, not just what you're maybe not acting on or what you're avoiding, but in all aspects of your life, right?
Right. And this starts with you. Like
Hmm.
we can think about it in interaction with other people, but also think about where have you not kept your word with yourself?
Oh, that's good.
Mhm. It
Yeah.
starts with you in that loop that you have with yourself because number 1, if you're not trusting your inner voice and you're not acting on what your inner voice is telling you, the commitments you're making with yourself, I best believe you are breaking multiple commitments with other people in your life and feeling pretty bad about it.
Okay, everybody stop right now. I want you to imagine and like listen really carefully inside. What are you avoiding? Where are you breaking your commitment with yourself?
And what would it look like to keep your word with yourself?
Oh, yeah. Bring
Mhm.
in the coach for the good questions.
Right? I
Yeah,
just I
yeah,
just had a
yeah,
friend
yeah.
reach out, I'm not gonna give her name, but she was just given the news that, like, all of her blood work is coming back as diabetic, and she's like, "I have ignored all of the recommendations that the doctors have given me," and she's like, "I just need to figure out why," and I said, "You can't change the past.
Hmm.
What would it look like if you honored yourself now and going forward?"
That's incredible. So, as the manager of a team like this, right? As a manager of many or several or a couple individuals, um, you see inaction or avoidance happening. We're talking about the individual accepting and thinking about what integrity feels like and looks like for them. Now you're the manager, you're witnessing this happening on your team.
Mhm.
How where do you
What do you
start?
do?
What do you do?
Call it in. Call it in.
Hmm.
So you don't wanna call it out in a public space, but it's using the think model. It's saying, "Hey, I'm noticing a pattern. I wanna talk to you about it." So sometimes the best gift we can give people is by making them aware that we're aware.
Hmm.
So we give them the option of, "Do you see a problem? Do you wanna make a change?" And then give them the opportunity to co-create a solution. So you don't wanna be the manager saying, "I need you to do this. You have to do this. X, Y, and Z by this date or you're fired." Because what that will do is create an initial stress response where you'll get some performance, but
Hmm.
long term they're going to fall off, and it's actually going to break down the trust more and more over time. So it's first saying, "I'm noticing this. Here's what's important to us. What do you think about that?
Right.
What's your commitment? When would you like to commit by?" So they are creating the contract with you. They're creating the agreement. And then it's up to them to follow up with you. And if they
Hmm.
don't, you then say, "Hey, we talked about this on this day. I'm not getting the follow up. What's going on?"
Yeah.
So you're making them accountable, which is probably something that's never happened in a constructive way in their life before. What a gift.
That is a gift. That is a gift. And if you have several people on a team that are all doing this,
Mhm.
do you do the same thing with all of them? And I
Yeah.
mean, it seems like this is the hard part of being in that role, though, right?
Mhm.
It's like you're responsible for yourself, you're responsible for the outcome of the team. Um, is there a way to sort of avoid people falling into the trap of avoidance and
Avoid avoidance.
to avoid avoidance? Yeah.
Well, like
Is
what
there a way? Like setting a culture, is there something
yeah.
that you can do ahead of time or setting better expectations or something to sort of pave the path so that this doesn't happen as often?
Sure, sure. So I think it's first about modeling the behavior. So cleaning up your own backyard, like
Mhm.
keeping the word with yourself as the manager, and look at what are the behaviors you're modeling. What are the kind of the operating procedures that you're operating with on your team? How do you handle when people are avoiding things or when you're noticing an action? So
Mhm.
you're creating that expectation from the front end, getting that buy-in, and you're also going to know if people are like red, yellow, or green. So red, hard stop, not going to do it. This is directly opposed to like how I want to operate in my life. Yellow, they're going to need more time and information. And then green,
Mhm.
they're like, hell yeah, let's go to the races. We're ready to go. They're going to be motivated by that clarity.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you'll know, you'll get more information. So I think the big thing is there isn't a one approach works for everyone. But what you want to do is create the container, create the structure for the culture, and then also hold the standard yourself, because that's where it falls off is when what you say doesn't meet what you do.
Mm. Yeah. And then, yeah, you have that distrust as a result of it because they're like, yeah, that's out of alignment with what I'm
Yes,
hearing. What I'm seeing you do is not what you're saying that you're going to do. I don't trust, hence, I don't trust that you're going
correct.
to do what you say. So, when you get called in to work with teams, and I know that a lot of times it's situations like this where, somebody will reach out to you. Which part of everything that we've talked about till now, which part of it is it that you usually get called in to help with? What does it look like?
I mean, it looks different for everybody, but it's so interesting that we'll get called in by CEOs, managers to fix their team, and they need to be fixed.
Oh, yeah.
Because we mirror back. So
Yeah.
tell me how you are implementing and absorbing all of this yourself. And they're like, well, not me. And we actually have it as one of our non negotiables that we work with all levels, starting with the key decision makers. Because if they aren't bought into this, they're going
Mhm.
to undo all the work we do. But what we typically find out is they are avoiding making key decisions and having key conversations that are impacting and creating all this uncertainty and avoidance and inaction in other people. It's them first. So normally people don't really like what I have to say because it's the truth, but I'm like, listen, why haven't you made a decision? Why haven't you given this person notice over 3 months? That's where it starts to get expensive. Why haven't you given this person a performance evaluation? Why haven't you given this person a raise who's now threatening to quit? Tell me what's going on that's preventing you from making decisive action.
Mm. I do think that a lot of times in work relationships like that, those stories that you talked about before, one person acts behaves in a certain way or has a certain habit, and they begin to tell us, they have a reason for why they're doing it.
Mhm.
The other person that they're interacting with has zero idea about this story that they're telling themselves. They
Mhm.
create a story, and then you have the war of the stories, and they're
Mhm.
they're looking for proof to support it, up and up and up and up. So it's like, here's my case file against this person. Here's my case file against
Mhm.
this person. And I have to like look at myself. Like I can see where I do this. I think that it's really easy to fall into this sort of trap where it's like, well, what's my proof? I reached out this time and they didn't respond. I reached
Mhm.
out, I have 3 emails that they never responded to. And you just begin creating this sort of list of all of
Sure.
the transgressions.
Yeah. So with that, I would ask, so what do you want? Like, do you
Right.
want them to be wrong or do you
To
want to
what
work with this
end?
person? And then the
Yeah.
question is like, what would it look like if you operated with the assumption that you're on the same team?
Hmm.
Because I think a lot of times it's easy to go into us versus them and make your colleague your adversary.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why would you want to? disparage someone like that you hired or that you brought onto your team? Like, that's curious.
So say we work on ourselves
Mhm,
and then we work with our teams and we get our teams to work with them on themselves and we like all come together. We're checking ourselves before we wreck ourselves. We like,
mhm.
we're like figuring out where we have these stories and we're trying to actually move forward in integrity as a whole. How do we measure that? How do we
Mm.
track that? How do we actually see the progress that's being made so that we don't lose sight that this was a problem ever
Yeah, and
before?
that's honestly why we start when we have engagements. We do the 4 stages of psychological safety team assessment so we can actually quantify that. We can look at what behaviors are contributing or taking away from the 4 different levels. So you have inclusion safety, learner safety, contributor safety, and challenger safety, because some people literally need it in black and white. This is the score that your team is rating at.
Wait,
You
wait.
can also
I need you to go back. I don't. So what are these? What are these different levels of
so
safety? Talk to me about
Yeah,
this.
yeah. So in 2020, Dr. Timothy Clark put out the 4 stages of psychological safety. So psychological safety has been around since like 1965. In 2012, Google did Project Aristotle, which basically said high performing teams' number one contributing factor is psychological safety.
Mhm.
So right as the pandemic is like boom, he comes out with this book. Like was working on it well before that. And also Daniel Goldman, who's the author of Emotional Intelligence, just came up with Optimal, which now links psychological safety and emotional intelligence. So I'm geeking out big time. But essentially, we need to stop looking at psychological safety and trust as a binary, we have it or we don't have it, but
Right.
more as where are we? Where is each person? Where is this team? And how do we build or how do we address different challenges and friction points that may be taking away from it?
I love that. And also, note to self, I need to read these two books. And
Book club.
also, I love everything about trust. So, book club, yes, book club. And speaking of book club, Liz from the book club, she was saying the case file and how much negative energy is spent in circling wagons. Yes,
Mhm.
Lauren, we are all on the same team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever
But
feel like
know that
somebody's
it's
got the case file on you though?
many
Sometimes?
people do, especially when I have boundaries and I
Yeah.
execute them. And I'm okay with it. That's why I have
We
that's
might
why I
need to
have a
talk
support
about
network.
boundary. Can we have like a little side conversation about boundaries in this discussion?
You
Yeah.
can't have one without the other, to be honest.
Ooh, do tell.
Well, so boundaries are our containers, they're our personal space. And so if they get violated and we don't communicate it, that's where avoidance starts coming up. We're not going to go up to that line anymore if we got shocked by it. So
Yeah.
we have to be able to say, you know what, this kind of crossed the line for me. This didn't feel right for me. Can we talk about it? And that's where psychological safety comes in, because if you don't first feel safe within yourself in your space, you can't expect you to go and have that risky. It's taking risks. It's vulnerable. So we have to make sure, number one, that you feel like you're honoring yourself and you're able to be specific in what's happened versus telling the story, so that then you can have a very objective and neutrally charged conversation with the person. And I always tell people, when it comes to psychological safety, intention doesn't matter, outcome does.
Ooh, I'm thinking about this. There's a
So it
lot to
wasn't my
process.
intention to hurt your feelings, but I did. And for that, let me own that.
Yeah.
Let me make an adjustment in my behavior. Let me be more aware of what comes out of my mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, boundary setting. This is another area I always need to work on. You know, So it occurs to me now that having, I know, so Liz is like, dang,
Dang.
yeah, I know, Liz, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm like, ooh, okay, I've got to like sit with that for a second. So, okay, so we're realizing that we need to recognize our boundary. There's a whole lot of inner work that comes with this. Like, I'm beginning to think
Huh?
that there's a whole lot of work, Lauren. What if I'm tired?
No, I know, but this is what will energize you, because you're tired because you're giving your power away.
Oh,
You're
okay.
tired because your values are challenged all the time. You're tired because you're not able to actually say you're tired.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
It's so funny because
It's
you're
all
right.
connected, and that's why
Yeah.
whenever I see self-help books or I see, like, the influencers that are out there, it's all surface level bullshit. Can I curse on this? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So it's surface level fluff bullshit. And so it'll make you feel good for about anywhere from 24 hours to 2 weeks, but it's not rooted in anything. It's not creating a transformation. It's not creating a lasting change. And so if you're not addressing the stuff in you that's got to come up to the surface, get processed, get healed, working with a coach, working with a therapist, working with a healer, whatever it is, all you're doing is bypassing for that serotonin hit of like, oh, this makes me feel good right now. I don't want you to feel good. I want you to face the stuff you've been avoiding, because those are the patterns that are creating the inaction and avoidance. That's what's
How,
making you hide.
so how do we get real with ourselves and begin to start
You
doing that
turn
hard
off
work?
all of the noise. Like literally sit in a room for 20 minutes, put your phone in another room, don't
Hmm.
even listen to music. I want you to just sit there with a blank piece of paper and a pen and just see what comes up. It's going to make you really uncomfortable.
Hmm.
The more you get into this practice, the more it says to your inner voice, oh, we're safe here. She's listening now. He's listening now. They're listening now. And that's how you tap into your intuition too, by the way. The more that you open those channels, it's gonna bring up the scary stuff. It's gonna bring up the questions. It's gonna bring up the fears. It's also gonna bring up the really good stuff. It's never all one way. But if we push down this part, you're also pushing down the really good stuff too.
Yeah.
So we got to
Just
bring it up.
imagine. Just imagine
But
facing the
this is why
fear.
working with a third party, honestly, who's trauma informed, like make sure that they have trauma informed certification, because we all have trauma. And a lot of us have compounded trauma from the last couple of years, from childhood. The Body Keeps the Score is an amazing book to give you more of an understanding around this.
Hmm.
I do a lot of somatic awareness work with my clients to get them
Hmm.
trusting their body again, trusting the inner signals.
For
That
those people who maybe have never explored any of this before, can you explain somatic work, what you're talking about with that?
Yeah, so somatic work is about body, breath, and vision. So getting back into your body,
Hmm.
I'm in my vessel,
Hmm.
breathing in a way that opens up these subconscious channels so that you can actually make lasting change, and then being very intentional in that future vision you want to have. So it's tapping. There's
Oh,
there's
I
a bunch of
know.
techniques. It's
You and
good
I
stuff.
have tapped in my living room, I
We sure.
believe, my friend.
Yes, thank you for letting me experiment on you. But these
Yeah.
are things that I have used on myself to help me get more clarity. Like I'm at the stage where I basically coach myself and then also have experts that I work with. So
Hmm.
the big thing is the journey is never done, but these are tools that can help you access all of these amazing parts of yourself to give you more awareness, more emotional intelligence, more psychological safety, and more intuition.
So when you go in and work with different teams, if somebody's reaching out and they're saying, look, my team, I need your help. I'm not sure how into like the somatic stuff that they would be.
Mhm.
Do you work with people at different levels of comfort where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I get it. What kind of like how do you do that? What
Yeah.
do you
I
do?
mean, I'll always ask them, what's your threshold? Like, how woo do you want to
Yeah.
go?
How
Um,
would you?
but like, I'll start them just with finger tapping. Like, so
Uh-huh.
when you're stressed out and you're on a meeting and you're talking to someone who kind of works your nerves, like, just drop your hand underneath the screen and breathe. Or when you walk into a meeting, just write your word of intention on how you want to feel at the end of the meeting. And that's going to be your word. That's your vision. And without even realizing it, you are exhaling the toxins out, because your breath is responsible for 70% of the toxins leaving your body.
Ooh.
So most of us are breathing incorrectly, and we're not doing it enough. So we're mouth breathers. Our
Yes.
noses are created there as filtration. So you breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth.
Okay. So
And here's the other thing. We're also not exhaling enough. So if you find yourself like up in your upper chest breathing,
yeah.
imagine that you are pushing out of a straw from like the lowest part of your belly. So and then take a deep breath in through your nose. Let it out.
I want to keep doing that, Lauren.
Mhm. And you can. So it's these simple things that become part of your toolkit. It is
Yeah.
not do it once and you're done. It's not read this book. It's not take this course. It's not pay someone X amount of dollars. You are responsible to incorporate this into your daily practice. And the more stressful encounters you have, you actually need more of these positive injections. Under stress, it's about a ratio of 12 to 1.
Okay.
So
Okay.
for every one negative encounter you have, you need 12 positive forms to equal
Oh
you
my
out.
gosh, that is so wild.
Mhm.
So that's a lot of positive that we need to
Uh-huh.
go out and get and create and
Or make part of your daily practice.
make part of our daily that's it. What are your 12? How would you like what do you can you do you have a list that you're like, okay, man, that was very negative. I need to go get like I need to go breathe deep. I need to
Uh-huh.
drink some
I need to
green
pet my
juice or
dog.
something.
I
I
need to
need
go
to pet
stand in the
my
sunshine. I need
dog.
to
I
go
need to
put a good
hug.
song on.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, I've
Okay.
got 'em. And I've had a very, not right now, I'm through it, thankfully, but, like, the last couple weeks were very stressful.
Mhm.
I took a lot of action that needed to happen, but created a lot of friction in my life, and so I reached out to a lot of friends. I, did all of the things I know to do, like go for a walk, and, I'm limited in what I can do because I used to throw weights around and, sweat it
Yeah.
out, and I can't do that now. I can't even walk up the stairs without being out of breath.
Yeah.
So I've had to really tap into that resource channel of like, okay, journal, let me brain dump, let me do a meditation, let me call a friend. So it's looking at the things you've done in the past that have worked and really tap into them.
I love this. So if you are listening to this, watching it live, listening to it later, watching it later, and you're thinking, I am stressed. I am so stressed. This thing happened. I like think about the things that we just talked about, right? Do some of the deep breathing techniques. Start thinking about how you can be more in integrity with yourself. Lauren,
Mhm.
what else should they do?
Get back in your body. So that's the first thing. So I think people try to go into the breathing, they do meditation, but their mind's still going. So
Hmm.
when you get back into your body, it actually gives your brain something to focus on. So that could be something as simple as standing up and just lightly bouncing in your heels. Or it could
Yeah.
be something as simple as putting your hand on your chest and just giving yourself a nice little heart massage.
Mhm. It's nice.
Yeah, right? Like you're
Yeah.
literally soothing yourself as hopefully happened to you as a child, as a baby, you know, giving yourself that hug, like, okay, I'm safe, I'm good.
All right.
It's simple
So
things.
So, I mean, I feel like we've learned a lot today, and we've learned a lot about how we can give ourselves better perspective, how we can work together better as a team, how we can challenge maybe some of the stories that we're creating, the case
Mhm,
files that we're building, and maybe re-examine those. We're talking about getting back into our bodies.
mhm.
These are some really great tips. I love it. If people want to reach out to you, I know that you've got your spitfirecoach.com, and I want to talk about some of this here. And so let's see, can I somehow bring up this really cool? Check this out. Lauren's got a
That's me.
podcast. It's really amazing. Yeah, she looks familiar, doesn't she? Yeah, she's right here. She's got this amazing podcast, and Lauren, she just she is who she is. She tells she I sometimes I get nervous when people say they tell it like it is because I'm like usually that's an excuse to just be, a
Well, the
jerk
people
or
who tell it
something.
like it is don't have to say they tell it like it is, to be
Right.
honest.
Exactly. She actually tells it like it is, but she's like not being a jerk about it. And I think that one of the things I love, you actually go into talking about avoidance. You like talk about a lot of the things we've talked about on this episode, but in a different way.
Mhm,
So if this resonates with you, if you want to hear more about it, spitfirecoach.com, go to the episodes, go to avoidance, but check out the rest of our podcast too, because it's really, really amazing. Also, can we talk about a little bit about what you're doing and what's going on in your world? Because you've got Spitfire Coach is a pretty incredible thing that you're running here.
yeah, I mean, what we're really excited to be working on and putting out there is our member community, because what we've found is that number one, it's lonely at the top. People don't necessarily feel comfortable talking to their coworkers or even their family about things they're struggling with related to how to manage people, how to, call them in and practice a lot of these tools. So we have created a member community. where you get on-demand learning, you get live learnings, you get access to a coach. So literally you're getting scripting of
Hmm.
what to do and how to leverage that. You can actually book sessions with coaches. We have ICF accredited coaches that we love. They're all Spitfire coaches, in my opinion. I've vetted them all. So we're trying to create an accessible and relatable real world platform and community where people can learn and grow from each other and also practice up on their skills, because what I have noticed that's out there is so antiquated, meant for a very like specific group. That's not really how future leaders or current leaders are operating or need to operate. So a lot of the advice is actually creating more unsafe environments. It's actually creating more distance, more inaction, more avoidance. So we're trying to equip people with a lot of the stuff we talked about and give them the
Yeah.
space to practice so they feel more confident in executing on that.
I want everyone to check it out, but I also want you to maybe go into explaining a little bit about what you mean, like some of this advice that's out there, or the training that's out there, that is maybe not the best.
Mhm.
What is that? Do you mind if you can you share a little bit about what that might look like?
The cringy stuff. So we
Yeah,
actually, I
I'm
recorded a
literally cringing right now.
yeah,
Like yeah.
you're literally wearing the color of the character that the acronym's after. So I was sitting in on a webinar. There were like 160 women business owners, like established business owners, and it was for a system to help us run our businesses better. And one of the questions was like, how do we, have it run efficient meetings? How do we keep people on track and prevent them from being long-winded? And I was sitting in the chat because that's usually how I stay engaged. Like I'll add my commentary, I'll ask questions, like it's just how I learn. And so someone said, well, we use the Elmo approach. So ELMO.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, okay, let me learn more. And so
Like Elmo
essentially from Sesame
from
Street,
Sesame Street?
so
Yeah.
they have a card that has the picture of cute little Elmo.
Oh,
Me love Elmo. Elmo's
yeah.
great. Except Elmo, the acronym stands for enough. Let's move on. And I go,
Ew.
ooh,
Oh,
ooh.
yeah.
Now I could have let it slide. And I waited to see if someone else would pipe up and say, that's gross. No one did. And
So
so I
wait,
said, I'm just really curious how the person receiving the card responds to that.
so they give the card. So wait, you're in a meeting and somebody gives
Sharing your
you this,
ideas.
and somebody gives you a card, like a card that says Elmo.
Uh-huh.
Enough. Let's move on.
Yeah. So if you're in open discussion and it's going,
Oh
enough
my
let's.
gosh.
So I just posed that. Then I see, I'm going to use this in my marriage. This is great. I can't wait to put this with my team, put this out with my team. And I would go, oh, dear God.
I might
This
not
is,
have a marriage if I did that with my marriage. I don't know what that
I
would
mean, I'd probably
do.
be in jail if someone gave me that card.
I think I might. I know. I was just thinking the same thing. I'm like, I might hack somebody. Like, I would take the card and like throw it at them.
Right.
That
But
is not
I'm
like.
just
Who are you
thinking
to say Elmo to me? Like, what do you mean? Enough. Let's move on.
it's
Wait,
so passive aggressive and dismissive. Like
it is and
it
rude.
just it's gross on, and then people think, oh, it's cute and it's clever. It assumes that the person receiving the card has the same level of safety as you do. And if you are in a decision-making position, you have to really hold that into the highest regard, because what you do makes or breaks the culture, the trust, the psychological safety. And if you're the one initiating it and creating that standard, I'm very curious what that person's turnover or productivity rates look like. So it was awful. It was awful.
Yeah,
And then someone else commented, well, it's that person's responsibility if they have an issue with it. And I'm thinking,
you're just
there's
inviting. That's that storytelling. That's that case building. You're just inviting that to happen. That's
Mhm.
one of those things where you'd be opening the door to make more of that happen. Is because to me, if somebody handed that to me, it'd feel almost like the same thing as an eye roll. Like, ugh,
Worse,
you know what I mean?
worse,
Yeah.
worse than an eye roll. It's like an eye roll with a comment, like a snicker after, like the snicker. I don't even know
Yeah.
what. Yeah, but it's
Snicker,
like
like,
like a
like,
scoff,
or a sneer,
a
maybe a
sneer,
sneer.
because it's
Yeah.
like, you don't want to hear my ideas. Now, let's
Right.
give an alternative. So let's say someone is going on and on, like there's an active debate. What you can do as a leader is say, hey, I know that there's a lot of opinions on this. We
Uh-huh.
only have like 5 minutes left of our meeting, or we only have this much time allocated. Your opinion is important. Let's try to synthesize this outside and bring it back for our next meeting, or have a follow-up chain, because your opinions matter. We need to hear it, but we don't necessarily have the time to do it now.
Yeah.
So again, it's closing the loop of saying, not right now, let's do it later, and you're important. I value you.
That's it.
That's
So
it.
So Charles Duhigg would appreciate the fact that basically you just nailed exactly his response to me.
We're going to
And
be
it
besties.
made me feel better. Like he wasn't dismissing me. There is a chance that I might get him to be a guest on the show. And yeah,
That's all it is like
giving
just
people respect.
respect,
Yeah.
respect and acknowledgement. Because
Hmm.
the thing is like when you close people off so many times, they'll go quiet, but they'll probably stop showing up. Then you're gonna have to worry about presenteeism and them leaving. And
Yeah.
also, who else is it closing off by being witness to that?
Oh man. Yeah. Because they in watching that, they're thinking, I'm not
Not
gonna
me.
say anything. I'm
Right.
not gonna risk anything. I could
Right.
get Elmoed, you know? Yeah,
Yeah. And they think
totally.
it's so cute. Ugh. But
That's
there's like
really,
it's mean, like it's mean girl behavior, or like whatever gender you want to apply to it, but it's just mean.
you know, that concept of killing your darlings, you know, where it's like you fall in love with this idea and you're like, oh,
Mhm.
I really love it. And I can just imagine like kind of sitting around and you're like coming up and it's like, oh, that could mean enough. Let's move on.
Ooh,
Oh, that's so good, you know?
you're
And I can
so
just
clever.
imagine thinking that myself, but kill that darling, you know, kill it.
Well,
Don't do it.
here's the worst thing. There are coaches out there teaching this.
Oh, that's
There
sad.
I have so
So,
many examples of this stuff, like of a coach doing relationship intimacy exercises at team building and staring at one another in the eyes with less than a foot between you.
so being like Elmo, you
Hell
know,
no.
that would be very concerning to me.
Yeah, but there's a
Right.
ton of bad advice out there. And so what I would say to people is just take a step back and question it. Where might this not work? What might this do to someone else? What's my intended outcome? And do
Mhm.
I achieve that with this? And what's the second and third order effects of this?
Wow.
Let's be critical thinkers, because just because someone says they're an expert does not mean they're an expert of you or your team.
See, I wanted to talk to you about avoidance and inaction. And as always, I've ended up learning so much more.
The can of worms, it happens.
I love it. It's a can of awesome. And I'm really thankful that you joined me on this show. I know, pause, so good. Thank you so much for joining me and for sharing your wisdom today. I really appreciate it. And I think I will never Elmo you ever.
I will never Elmo you.
Oh, oh,
I'll never
oh.
move on.
I'll never move on.
It'll never be enough.
I love it. You'll join me again sometime, right? You'll come
You
back
can't get rid
on.
of me. You can't quit me.
I really can't. I really, and I wouldn't want to. So, all right, my friend. So thank you so much for joining us today. And if anybody wants to reach out, they can reach out to you at spitfirecoach.com. Yes? Yes.
Yes. Or
Anything else?
LinkedIn,
Any other
all the
way?
things.
All the
Yeah.
things? All right. I will talk to you soon, my friend. Bye.
Big hugs.
Big hugs, big hugs. Oh my gosh. I love my friend Lauren. I really, really do. And if you're in the DC area, I am going to get to see a whole lot more of her soon as she moves back into the region. And so I'm looking very much forward to that. But thank you, Lauren, for joining us on the show. And I want to thank all of you, all of our listeners, for joining us too, for tuning in. Your engagement and enthusiasm is always something that lends itself to making these things so worthwhile, making things exciting, and keeping things energetic. And I don't know. I'm just really thankful that I get a chance to do this, and that there are people who pay attention to association chat. Thank you, Liz. Thank you so much, my friend. And thanks to all of you. I want you to stay curious. The reminder is to stay curious and to keep asking questions to learn every day, no matter the fear. No matter the fear, we are trying to go after that. We're trying to get inquisitive. We're trying to get curious about this and keep asking those questions because, as Joseph Campbell once said, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. So have a great rest of the week, everyone.